Well, I'm not surprised at all by the British minister's response to Saudi Arabia's actions over the weekend of executing nearly 50 people. What we have to take into consideration, and what we have to always remind ourselves of, is that Britain is not genuinely committed to human rights on the international stage. If Britain was genuinely committed to human rights, then Britain would not have such a close relationship, for example, with Saudi Arabia, which, in my opinion, has the most repulsive track record in the world when it comes to human rights. So I think we can say that Britain plays a very duplicitous role in regard to human rights. Ultimately, Britain puts its own self-interest first when pursuing its foreign policy goals. Now, in regard to Saudi Arabia, Britain will sideline Saudi Arabia's appalling track record with human rights. Britain will sideline Saudi Arabia's role as the leading exporter of Islamic extremism to the world and Islamic terrorism in the world. Why will Britain do that? Because Britain has a very, very close economic relationship with Saudi Arabia. So every year, British defence companies such as BAE Systems, which is one of the largest aviation companies in the world, sell Saudi Arabia millions upon millions of pounds every year of British military equipment. And of course, Britain does not want to jeopardise the revenue it receives from Saudi Arabia for the sake of human rights. Also, Britain and Saudi Arabia share a very, very common view, along with America, of course, when it comes to the situation in the Middle East. So, for example, Britain and Saudi Arabia both want to see the overthrow of the Syrian government, of President Assad, and they both want to see the government in Damascus replaced with a pro-Western, pro-Saudi government. Also, Britain and Saudi Arabia had the same policy when it came to Libya. Saudi Arabia was supporting the overthrow of Colonel Gaddafi and the Libyan government, which of course was contrary to international law. But it just shows once again how Britain and Saudi Arabia have a very close economic relationship, and they also view developments on the international arena in a very similar way. Also, of course, we can't ever forget this, that Saudi Arabia is the leading exporter of oil in the world, and Britain wants to be extremely close to Saudi Arabia, as does America. So, all in all, it just shows that Britain only pays lip service to the concept of furthering and protecting human rights in the world. In reality, Britain's relationship with Saudi Arabia showed that Britain will always put self-interest before human rights.